So when I was pursuing my MBA at Columbia University, I was fortunate enough to study under Jim Rogers, who famously had worked with George Soros. The two of them ran the Quantum Fund to unbelievable success in terms of their returns. A brilliant investor. And so Jim would relatively rarely teach this seminar that he ran like a hedge fund, where you would have a certain industry that you covered, and once a week you would have to submit your research and analysis and then defend it. And he ran the classroom sort of like a Socratic atmosphere where you would have to defend your investment argument. And he, along with three former students who taught the class with him, would sort of hammer you with questions. And it was only about a dozen of us or so in that seminar. So we were very fortunate. It was it was really kind of the defining experience, I think, in many ways, of my training as an investor. And there's one occasion that really stands out in my memory as probably the most important thing that I learned from Jim. And he had asked a question in class one day, and I raised my hand and began to answer by saying, I think. Well, I think. And Jim has never lost that accent that he developed growing up in Demopolis, Alabama. He immediately just slammed his hand down on the table and said, I don't care what you think. What you think is useless to me. Tell me what you know. And it was one of those sort of light bulb moments, one of those epiphanies, because it's a nuanced and very subtle point, but it's so important. There's so many investors who don't understand that they don't understand what they're investing in. They think they know, and they convince themselves that they know, but they really don't. And nothing is more dangerous to your capital than putting it into something you truly don't understand. And there's an aversion to it, I think, because it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of research and analysis. That was another lesson we learned in that class. But without it, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's difficult to know when you know, because, of course, it tends to be different with respect to every different situation, every different investment. It's not like it's a clearly defined threshold. And it's why, if anything, with our fund, we tend to overdo it. We average over 200 hours of research per investment. But it really comes down to that fundamental point, that really, really important lesson that Jim taught us, which is it's really important to know what you're talking about. It's so simple, it's so straightforward, but it is so key. You have to know what you're talking about. And you have to work at investing enough to know when you know, and to be able to discern when you really understand something, as opposed to convincing yourself that you understand it, or having this sort of superficial understanding where if you're talking to somebody else, it's very easy to sound like you know what you're talking about, but you really don't. That's the really important lesson that I learned, probably the most important lesson I learned from studying under Jim. And obviously it stayed with me. So that's it. Good luck with your investments and be careful out there.